In this video, I'm going to be testing out my Ego 16-inch chainsaw. It's got a 4 amp hour battery, and we're going to start off on this Bradford Pear right here. This is pretty typical of what you'd find in a storm afterwards. So I cut this branch down. I'm taking down these Bradford Pears actually, all of them. There were 9 on the property. I've taken down 2, working on the 3rd one now. This chainsaw, the chain is in pretty good condition. It's not brand new, but it's not old by any means. I've just used it for a couple weeks. Cutting up Bradford Pears and some oak mostly. So I'm going to show you in this right now how it does cutting up this Bradford limb, and then I'm going to test it out on some oak, and we're going to see, can this saw take the place of a gas saw? Will the battery last long enough? Will it work without issues? Will it make the cuts?
One of my favorite and least favorite things about this chainsaw is the ease of which it is to change the bar and chain out, remove it for cleaning, and to tighten the chain. So it's all tool free. You just have this to tighten and this to remove, that all tool free. Just if you just take this out and you twist it, get it loose, and then just spin it the rest of the way. And it needs to be cleaned out again, because it always does. And then you can tighten the chain just with that. The reason I say it's one of my least favorite things is because of how you could easily break it. The bearing down on the chainsaw, if it's not cutting well, you could break it, you could over tighten it, and you'll break the mechanism that tightens it, and then there's no way to fix it. You don't want to do that, so just be very careful, don't over tighten it. This you can pretty much tighten as far as you can, but this, don't over tighten it, because you will break the mechanism. So the camera died, but the chainsaw battery did not last very much longer. It looks like, from what I could tell in the video, may have made it about 2 more cuts. So I was able to take that limb, which I took all the branch piece, the actual thick branch pieces down to this, and only had that much base of the branch left. So I probably would have needed about 4 more cuts to get it all done, and it just completely died. There was no more juice left in it. So towards the end, we were making cuts of, we were cutting across 12 inches just to get another angle of it all. This is what we started, what we ended with. And we had this base piece of the branch left. Right now I have what's left of an oak tree, and we're going to be making some cuts on some pieces of wood, from everything from a big piece of the trunk to small limbs that are 8, 9, 10 inches wide.
and see how long this thing lasts. And at the very end, we'll compare it against my Echo. Obviously, you're not going to cut down this tree. You can see this tree was absolutely huge. It's about 4 feet in diameter at the base. There's no way you're going to do it with this. Actually, my brother-in-law took the tree down, and I've been doing all the cutting. So after all that cutting, we still have 3 bars of battery. I think you can see that probably. Gonna do a little bit more. I try and do a little different cuts, you know, try to get some of these splits cut down the middle, see what that does to it. That did a bit of a number on it. I think you can see it's got 2 bars left. You can see if we can get this thing to either overheat or die on us. So you can see here, 1 flashing red bar, so we are very close to dying. We're gonna try to run it out on a small piece. It's completely dead. So you can see now, it's just 1 flashing red bar and it will not cut. It won't even cut through that little twig that I was just trying to cut through. It starts to rev up and then it just dies. So this is a 4 amp hour battery. I have 2 2.5 amp hour batteries in the garage, and they're pretty good. I can cut through small limbs with them. They have a tendency to start overheating if you really try to cut through anything that's bigger around than say 12 inches. But for an average homeowner, I think that this actually does a pretty good job. If you're just cleaning up stuff that's fallen during a storm, you have Bradford pears on your property and you want to take one of them down or just clean up all the mess and the limbs, then they're pretty good. Obviously, it's not a gas. It's going to take a couple hours, like an hour or so for this to charge. Is really, if you were trying to clean up a lot, this could get pretty frustrating, especially if you only have 1 battery. But for what it is, I think it's a pretty good chainsaw. So 1 4 amp hour battery was able to cut that whole pile of wood right there. Everything you see on camera was cut. Plus all these little rounds right here, that stump split, and those 2 right there. And that is about, say at the widest point where I made that cut, it's roughly 24 inches. I don't have a tape measure on me right now, but it's probably a little less than 2 feet. So maybe like 22 inches or so. For a 16-inch chainsaw, I think that cutting through that much oak, did all of that in about 20 minutes, so I didn't give the battery any chance to cool down or anything like that. Just non-stop cutting. I think it did a pretty good job. I think for the average homeowner, that would suffice. Now, as I said before, I have a gas chainsaw, the 24-inch blade, that made a lot of this much faster. Still fully charged.